Thank you so much for joining today's training, How to Tell Your Winning Story to a Top-Tier MBA Program. Without an Ivy League degree, and even if you don't have 10 years of experience on Wall Street with 5 promotions or some other over-the-top achievements. The point of this presentation is to prove to you that you can make a winning case for yourself to the top MBA programs of the world, even if you don't have some outrageously impressive resume. And I think that's an important point because I think a lot of candidates assume that you can't get into a top tier MBA program unless you have an Ivy League degree or 10 years of outrageous experience on Wall Street or some other over the top achievements, as I call it. Nothing can be further from the truth. I've worked with over hundreds of candidates over the last few years working to get into business school, and many of them did not have crazy impressive brands on their resume or crazy impressive degrees. They were just really hardworking people who were determined to get into business school and who kind of trusted my guidance on how to frame themselves in their application. And that's what I really want to talk to today. When I say how to tell your winning story, what I mean is I want to walk you through how you answer the most popular and common MBA essay question that all of the top tier schools are going to ask you, either in your application, your interview, and usually in both, which is, what are your career goals and why do you want an MBA, right? That is the one question that all programs are going to ask. The way that they compare candidates is how they respond to that answer, to that question. And so I want to walk you through exactly how to respond to that question today. So that's what we're going to cover. My name is Ryan Barba, and I'll be the presenter today. And I'll start today by just walking you through a little bit about me, not to brag, but simply so that you know that you can trust the advice that you're hearing today, right? I don't want you going through the entire presentation wondering, well, why the heck should I even trust this guy, right? It's important to establish credibility up front. So we'll do this real quick. I do have a background in MBA admissions. I worked for 3 years in the MBA admissions office at Cornell, the Johnson School, and then another 2 years working at Keenan Flagler at the University of North Carolina. I do have my own MBA. I applied to many top tier schools. I got into 5 top 10 programs and then applied to Cornell as well. Ended up accepting the Cornell offer when they gave me a full tuition scholarship, which, trust me, was the biggest blessing and gift of my life. I've been a featured contributor and consultant at sources like Stacy Blackman, which is a big MBA admissions consulting firm, and Wall Street Oasis. I'm currently the director of MBA admissions at Ready4. You may have seen me featured in sources like the US News and World Report and MBAprograms.org, amongst several others where I'm featured on a regular basis for my expertise in business school admissions. Professionally, my background is in branding and marketing, so I've spent over 9 years advising Fortune 500 companies on their marketing and branding strategies. In terms of helping candidates get into business school, over the last 7 years or so, I've helped more than 500 candidates gain acceptance into schools that are typically considered top 10 schools. And by that, I mean schools that are ranked in the top 10 in sources like the US News and World Report, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, sources like that. Overall, I have a 94% success rate getting candidates into at least one top 10 program. These are candidates who choose to work with me directly on their applications. And in fact, more than 40 students currently enrolled at Harvard, Wharton, and Stanford, which are typically considered the top 3 business schools, are past clients of mine. So these are stats that I'm very proud of. I really love working with candidates, helping to get into business school. This is my calling, and hopefully that energy and enthusiasm will come through in today's presentation. So here's the point. To get into a top-tier business school, you have to be able to tell your story. Right? If you look at some of the common essay questions that the top tier MBA programs are asking, several of which are now being flashed on your screen at a lightning pace, probably faster than you can read them, it'll immediately become clear that being able to articulate what your career goals are and why you need an MBA to get there is a pivotal part of any application to a top tier business school. This is the go-to question, again, that every business school is going to ask you. And so if you bomb this question, your application is DOA, right? It's dead on arrival. There's no way you're getting into business school unless you can clearly articulate why you need an MBA to achieve the goals that you have, and especially what those goals are. That's the point, right? As you look at these essay questions, it's clear that this is a question that everybody's asking. You have to know how to answer it. And this is where many applications fail because applicants don't know how to answer this question well. So I want to walk you through exactly what this means, right? I want to talk to you about how you make your story stand apart to the most selective MBA admissions committees who read literally dozens of responses to this exact essay every day. That is the focus of today's training. So here's what you're going to learn. Right? I want to teach you how to make your winning case and tell your story to the MBA Admissions Committee. And again, your story is your response to the quote-unquote career goal essay, as it's commonly called. First, I want to talk you through my proven structure for how to answer that question, which again, every school you apply to is inevitably going to ask you. Within that structure, I want to talk to you about how to market your professional successes to date. Right? If you're applying to a top tier school, as you probably already know, you need to be coming into the school with previous work experience. And you need to know how to market that pre-MBA experience without sounding cocky, but also while convincing the admissions committee that you have value to add to an MBA classroom, right? That's really important. This is why schools are asking for candidates that have previous experience. In the professional world, they want candidates who have something to add to the campus environment, to other students, to the learning environment, the classroom, right? So you need to be able to market why your experience is relevant and will be helpful to you as you engage in the classroom and in other campus activities like clubs and events and things like that. Third, I want to talk to you about how to describe your career goals credibly and specifically, thereby demonstrating clarity, focus, and drive or ambition to the admissions committee. I can tell you that the most common mistake that MBA candidates make in answering this question is that their career goals are not nearly specific enough. I'll talk to you about why that is, and I'll talk to you about how to make sure that yours are. And then finally, I'm going to walk you through how you make a compelling case for why you need an MBA and for why you need an MBA now. Right, which is also kind of a common question. It's important that you have a really good response to that question. So I want to talk to you through what an admissions committee is really looking for when they're asking a candidate, why do you need an MBA? Okay, so that's why we're headed where we're headed. Here's why I think this is important to you now. Top MBA programs, as you probably know, are getting increasingly more competitive every year. Yet the career goals and why MBA essay, as we're talking about, is still the go-to question. So as the MBA admissions process has changed, this is still the go-to question. It has been for decades. It's still the number one question that these programs are asking. And so you need to kind of get clear about that as soon as you can. Most responses to this essay, again, are common, boring, and lacking necessary details. This is the question where most business school applications sink. But why now? Getting clear on your story takes a lot of time, and most candidates rush it. They underestimate how much time and effort it really requires to nail this question and to nail it well. Getting clear on it now will save you time later. You know this question is coming. You know that regardless of which schools you're applying to, this is a case that you will have to make. So what's the point in waiting for the day before the application is due or the month before the application is due? Give this some time. Give it its due diligence. If you can really think through this story now, then you're going into the admissions process with a strategy, with kind of a marketing strategy, right? You're really clear in your messaging, which again, most candidates aren't. They kind of rush this at the last minute. They fail to do their due diligence up front, and they end up rushing this essay, and it comes out, frankly, looking like crap, right? So why not start thinking about this now, getting clear on this now? I think this is the time to do it before you start your applications. Crafting an A+ quality story now will give you confidence as you head into the process. Right? Not only is it going to save you time, not only is it going to make you more efficient, but if you're heading into the process knowing that you have this question nailed and that this is a question you know you're going to have to answer, your confidence will be higher, and that confidence will shine through in your essays and your interview. Right? So the clearer you can get on your story and the sooner you can get clear on your story, the better shape you're going to be in. So is today's training for you? Well, it is if you're applying to a top tier MBA program this year. And if you want to leg up in the competitive admissions process, also known as you want to get in. If that's you, then you're in the right place. If you want to compellingly showcase your achievements in a way that will resonate with the admissions committee, again, without sounding cocky, this is definitely for you. We're going to walk you through exactly how to do that. Third, if you're worried about how to articulate your career goals, your short and long-term career goals, and you worry that you don't have enough clarity about what those are yet, which was certainly true for me, this is definitely for you, right? This is a big problem, right? Candidates kind of entered this process thinking, well, I don't really know what I want to do after business school. I don't know what I want to do with my life. You are not alone, and there are things that you can do to get the necessary clarity for this process. So we'll talk about that today. If that's you, if that's a concern of yours, again, you're in the right place. If you'd benefit from learning the best practices for arguing why you need an MBA, again, that's a big part of that question. This is definitely for you. That's a big part of what we're going to cover today. And then finally, if you appreciate example structures and implementable strategies, and if you cringe when you're just given some high-level advice that you can't really implement, trust me, you're in good company. I hate that. And so if that's you and you want something that's a little bit more actionable, this training is definitely for you, and it was designed to be exactly that. This is not meant to be a broad training. It's meant to be specific. We're going to give specific examples and a specific structure that you can literally use in preparing for and writing the answer to this essay. So just a few ground rules for today, just to make sure I'm clear on expectations. First, again, what I'm teaching you today is based on real life success stories that I believe are repeatable and can be modeled after, right? I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of MBA candidates. I've seen what works. And so I'm really confident in what I'm teaching you today. This really is best practice stuff. I truly believe that in my heart of hearts. But knowing the structure and knowing the strategies is no replacement for hard work. So just because you'll be ending this training with an understanding of how to answer this question, how to structure the essay, how to think through your response to it, it's not going to replace the fact that it's going to require some thought, time, and effort for you to get really clear on your own personal story. So this is not a fast bullet to just solve everything for you. Second, I don't believe there is any such thing as the perfect candidate, and I'm not here to teach you how to become one. Again, I believe that you can get into business school even if you didn't go to Princeton undergrad and start Google too. You don't have to be the perfect candidate to go into business school. So if that's your goal, abolish that goal. The goal is to show why you're great and you're special and you're better than the other candidates that you're competing against in trying to get into business. The bar for getting into college is high, especially for top programs, but I believe there is room at the top. Okay, so don't be scared off by how selective these business school programs are. It's okay, trust me. A lot of candidates make a lot of stupid mistakes or naive mistakes because they just don't know how to ace the application process. And there's a lot of room at the top for people who know how to do it well. And hopefully you'll leave this training with an understanding of how to become one. But finally, again, no magic pill here. I'm not making empty promises. I'm all about strategies and helping you learn how to do this process right. But if you have a 1.7 GPA and a 540 GMAT score, I can't get you into Harvard Business School, right? I'm not somebody here to exaggerate result. Again, I'm here to talk to you about strategy and how to answer that go-to question that every business school is inevitably going to ask you. Now, we've talked a lot about my past successes. I talked about how I have a 94% success rate and I've helped hundreds of candidates get into top 10 business schools. That's true. And as you were hearing these statistics, you were probably thinking, well, maybe that worked for other candidates, but it's not going to work for me. So I will admit, yes, part of my success and the success of my candidates has come from the fact that I've worked with some high achievers. But what I want to show you, and we'll go through this quickly, I want to kind of dispel this concern. Because again, I truly believe that you can get into a top tier business school even if you don't have a 750 on the GMAT and 8 years experience, becoming the next Steve Jobs or something, right? And so here are some past client testimonials, if you will, or examples of candidates that I've worked with in the past. Every year I get a ton of these emails like the one you're seeing here, and this is what makes my job and frankly my life really rewarding. But here you see, right? So here's a candidate who got into HBS and Sloan. Here's a snapshot of his acceptance letter at the Harvard Business School. Hopefully you'll get one of those as well. Candidate had a 650 GMAT with a 69 percentile on the quant. And the GMAT score, which is typically considered low for a school like HBS. He had an undergrad GPA of 3.3, which was average at best for a school like Sloan and Stanford, but there you see the results, right? Accepted into both schools, changed his life. He did ultimately go off to HBS and is now entering McKinsey as a strategy consultant. A couple of other examples. I love the one on the bottom there because she just listed all of her acceptances: in at Sloan, in at Kellogg, in at Ross with a full ride, in at McCombs with a full ride. Impressive candidate, 690, 3.41 GPA, and did have some financial analyst background, but again, not an all-star. Right? She didn't have a 750. She didn't have a 3.9 from Princeton. She actually went to a just kind of run-in-the-mill school, just like I did, and she completely crushed the admissions process. Same with the example above. Got into Wharton with a 670, 63 percentile on the GMAT, 3.37 GPA. Again, great GPA, but by Wharton standards, actually a little bit below average. Couple more examples here: 650, 3.48, another acceptance to Sloan. So I could spend hours going through slides like these because I have a long list of testimonials like these, and I'd love to do that. I'd love to just kind of show off my success, but that's not why we're here. The point, I hope, is clear. I want to really show you that you don't have to be a complete all-star to get into a top-tier business school. I believe that there are 5 red flags that sink a candidate's success story or story on a business school application. The first I talked about before, and those are unclear or unspecific career goals. What do those sound like? Well, I want to go to business school and become a consultant, right? Think about how broad and unspecific that is, right? Or I want to start a tech startup. Okay, doing what? What type of technology and what type of industry? Who are your customers? Solving what types of problems, right? Most candidates submit this essay and they say, I'm excited to go to business school because I want to become a consultant or an entrepreneur or go into marketing or something like that. Unclear, unspecific, so much wiggle room, so broad. That's the dagger of death to your career goals or your story essay. Second is verbiage that suggests that you just want to get rich, right? And what does that look like? Well, if you're writing your essay and you're leaving the impression to the admissions committee that you're just going off to business school to go off and make a ton of money, that is very off-putting, right? Schools want somebody with passion, who have a goal in mind that's going to better the world in some way, which is not to say they don't want financial people who are going to Wall Street. Like, that's A-okay. But if they get any kind of hunch that you're just trying to go to business school to make the big bucks and you don't really care about who you are and what you're becoming, that is the stroke of death to your application. That's another big problem. Third, verbiage that suggests that business school is going to be your chance to do some soul searching and find yourself, right? Some kind of image of this guy kind of skipping in the meadow, looking up at the clouds, wondering what he's going to do with his life. And that's kind of the vision of what business school is. It's not. A lot of candidates think that they're going to arrive at the front door of a business school and they're going to have months and months to do all this soul searching and figure out what they want to do with their lives. You won't. Typically you start school in September, maybe late August, and recruiting starts in October, right? Around that same time, you need to figure out what you're going to major in or focus in. You have to choose a concentration very early on. So if you're thinking you're going to be able to go into business school and just kind of dabble around and talk to a million people and float up in the sky, doing all this daydreaming and finding your life goals, you won't. And business schools know that. They don't want dabblers who are trying to go and kind of figure things out. Certainly, it's great that you want to grow and build your skill set and gain relevant knowledge and maybe fine-tune your career goals a little bit. But if you're just going with absolutely no vision of where you're headed, that is very off-putting to a business school. So you certainly don't want to say in your essay is that I want to go into something related to X. Again, it's very unclear, very unspecific, and basically tells the business school that you don't know where the hell you're going, which is a problem. Fourth, if they have any concerns that you have nothing to offer the school, then your application's dead, right? This is why schools want previous work experience. They want to know that you have something to offer, that you have knowledge and expertise to contribute that will enable you to contribute to classroom conversations, small group projects, clubs, activities, and other things that the campus and the school offers, right? You have something to give back to the campus environment and to improve the experience for other students. If they don't think you have anything valuable to add, then there's no reason for them to accept you. This does not mean, by the way, that you have to have a business background. On the contrary, I've worked with a lot of candidates who come from non-business backgrounds and got into the best schools in the world. But you still have to articulate why your experience is going to equip you to contribute at a high level, and achieve your post-MBA career goals. Next, lack of specificity on why you're interested in their program. If they ask for it, which they will. Some schools ask about it in the essays, some don't. Just about all of them will ask you this in an interview if you get to the interview stage. So, specifics on where you want to go in your career, why you need an MBA, and then number 5 here, why you're interested in their program. And then I added a 6th one, even the title says 5. Hopefully this is obvious, but so many candidates say, well, my word limit for this essay is 500 words, and so I need to fill up 500 words exactly. And so maybe they write their essay, it comes up to 420, and they just add a bunch of fluff to fill out the other 80 words. What a pain for the admissions committee. And I can say this because I've been there, right? I've sat through these snooze-worthy essays that are just padded with all this additional language that isn't there, and it's just so clear that the candidate just wanted to fill the word limit and fill space. It's okay if you have a 500-word limit and you only fill 460 of the words. That's fine. Much better to be succinct and specific than throw a bunch of fluffy words out there. We're talking about essays that start off with all these, interestingly, and next, and furthermore, when you don't need all those. Like sometimes those words are okay, obviously, to continue the flow, but when you just throw in a lot of words like that to fill the word limit, it shows, and there's just no need to do it, right? So that you can kind of sink your essay. Fluff belongs on your sandwich, not in your essays. So that's just some high-level guidance. Let's get into specifics. Here's where we're going. First, I want to talk to you about how to structure your story essay. Again, your story essay, what are your career goals? Why do you need an MBA? I'm going to walk you through an exact structure that you can actually use in writing this essay. Tweak it however you want, but this is a good way to kind of think about how this essay should be organized. Tested, proven, and specific best practices for articulating your career goals, your readiness for a top business school, and your need for an MBA. And when I say readiness, that would include evidence of leadership potential, right? How do you show that you're ready for all this and that you're clear in where you're going? And then third, how to convince every school that you apply to that it's your top choice program, which is important, right? Schools want to know that you were genuinely interested. They want to be convinced that their school is your absolute #1 top choice. Why? Well, if you look at sources like the US News and World Report, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, all these kind of famous MBA ranking sources, you'll notice that a key driver of a school's ranking is what they call their yield. Their yield is the percentage of candidates who are accepted that accept their offers. Right, so in other words, it looks really good if they accept 100 candidates and 96 of them enroll. It looks really bad if they accept 100 candidates and only 18 enroll. Right, so how do they keep their yield up? Well, they put their candidates through the tests, and they want to see whether a candidate is really interested in their program or not. So you have to convince every school you apply to that they're your #1 top choice program. So if you apply to 6 schools, which is average, technically you're lying to 5 of them, right? Because only 1 school can really be your top choice, but that's okay. Every school you apply to should be under the impression that they are your absolute #1 top choice, okay? So let's get into this. So here's how I think about the story. If you look at this kind of consecutively or on a time basis, it kind of works left to right on this slide. To the left, you have relevant growth to date. Right? There are things that you've done and growth that you've shown to this point in your career, right? That comes first, your pre-MBA experience, this relevant growth to date. Next, the MBA, which is kind of a bridge between where you are now, right? The growth that you've had till this point, and your short-term goal. I love that image as an MBA as kind of a bridge. It is a bridge between where you are and what I call your short-term training ground, which is your short-term goal, right? I call it a training ground because ideally your short-term role, the role that you have directly after business school should be training you for your ultimate vision, right? Where you ultimately want to be in your life, what I call your vision for contribution, the legacy you want to build, how you want to give back to society through your career, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the path, right? You have relevant growth so far. Then you're going to go to business school, but it's going to help you transition into your short-term goal, and that short-term goal is going to train you for where you're ultimately headed. And as you see on the bottom of the slide here, ideally, as you grow in your career, you also grow in your influence and your ability to impact, right? Your leadership skills and the level of your responsibility and the value and contribution that you're making to society. So this isn't brain science, right? This is pretty simple, right? As you think about kind of the story today, but it's the 4 elements of a story that you want to tell in your business school essay. However, the structure for how you answer this question is a little bit less intuitive. And here's kind of my magic formula, if you will. If you can see the numbers that have now appeared on the screen, this is the order in which you actually want to articulate your story. You actually want to start by talking about where you're headed long term. And it's just such a powerful opener to be able to say to a business school, hey, this is where I want to be 10, 20, 30 years from now. Here is the contribution that I'm going to make to the world and to society. Here's the legacy that I'm building. Here's what I want to be remembered for. Here's how I'm going to help people and my customers and whoever I'm working for, whatever that is for you. That's where you start with this kind of long-term vision for contribution, the contribution that you want to make to the world. Start there. It's aspirational. It's exciting. You get the admissions committee kind of on board with you. We'll get into a little bit more. Step 2, en route to that long-term goal, here's what I want to do in the short term, okay? That's your second part, probably your second paragraph in the essay. Third, I've made some relevant growth or progress to date in pursuit of this short-term and long-term goal. Here's what I've done. Here are the skills that I've developed. Here's the expertise that I have. Here's how I've grown as a leader and individual, so on and so forth. However, step 4, in order to get there, I need an MBA. I've made relevant growth to date. I'm proud of the success I've had so far, but there's a gap. There are things that I have yet to learn, skills that I have yet to acquire. An MBA is going to help me get there. So if you think about this more broadly, this is kind of my money slide for the formula, right, of how to tell your story to a business school. Again, step 1, maybe paragraph 1. My long-term vision is to do this. This is what inspired this vision, but to succeed long-term, I need the following skills, expertise, so on and so forth. As such, my short-term goal is going to be the perfect training ground to build that ideal set of skills and knowledge, maybe those connections that I need. Here's how. Third, I've already made progress toward this short-term goal. I've been working hard, and I've started to build some of the skills that are necessary. Here's what I mean. Fourth, but an MBA is going to help me bridge the gap. I'm not there yet. I need to build on the progress I've made, which is fully going to qualify me for my short-term goal. So if you remember any slide in this presentation, this one's it. This is the summary of the formula. We're going to go through these 4 steps in more detail, but this is the magic formula that has worked over and over and over again for so many candidates. Now, again, you can take this and tweak it your own way. You can start to mesh ideas here and there, and you certainly want to make the essay your own. You don't want it to be too scripted, but this is the best way to really think through how to structure your career goal or your story essay, whatever you want to call it, okay? So let's go through this step by step, starting with your long-term goal, your long-term quote-unquote vision for contribution, as I call it. Here are the 5 characteristics of a compelling long-term goal, in my opinion, based on my experience. First, it has to demonstrate the value you want to have in the world. Right, the problem you want to help solve, the efficiency you want to help certain companies or people realize through your efforts, right? What is the value that you are going to bring, right? Now, to be clear, this doesn't have to be humanitarian in nature, right? You don't have to tell Harvard Business School that you want to be the next Gandhi or the next Mother Teresa or even the next Steve Jobs who revolutionizes the world with his ideas and technologies, right? It's perfectly okay if your goals aren't that huge and if they're not humanitarian. The goal here is not to tell Harvard that you want to cure hunger in Africa, right? But you should be able to articulate the value that you're going to have within your organization. Maybe the organization you're joining, the organization you're starting, whatever it might be, nonprofit, for-profit, large, small, it's all fine as long as you can articulate, here's what I'm going to be contributing, right? Here's who my customers are. Here's the problem that I think they have. Here's how I want to help them solve it. Here's the efficiency that I think can be gained. Here's what I've learned in my experience to date or even my personal life to date about where I can add value. And here's how I want to do it. Okay, really, really important. makes you really likable and really memorable to an admissions committee. Compare that with a candidate that says, well, I want to be a partner at McKinsey, right? That's fine. It's great if your vision is to be a partner at McKinsey, but you need to be able to articulate in that role how you're going to help, who are the organizations that you're going to help, so on and so forth. Number two, I've already gotten into this a little bit, specifically articulates the role you want to hold and for what type of company and who your customers will be. Right? So if you want to be a partner at McKinsey, within which type of practice, serving which types of clients, what does that role entail? Who are you going to be leading? What is your day-to-day going to be looking like? Right? Who are your customers going to be? Are you going to be focused in a particular industry, particular customers within that industry? Again, specifics, not just a partner at McKinsey, not just the founder of a startup, right? Get really, really clear on those underlying details. Third, you need to convince the admissions committee that this goal means something real to you, right? Again, they don't want people who are just trying to get rich quick. They want people who have a passion, right? Stanford every year asks the same essay question, which is what matters most to you and why. They want to know that you are a person that has value and values, right? That there are things that really mean something to you. So when you're articulating your career goal, especially your long-term career goal, you got to say, here's why this matters to me. Here's why this is important. Here's why I think this is going to be a value add to the business world, to society, so on and so forth. Fourth, again, make it clear what that role is going to entail. What are the tasks you'll be conducting on a regular basis? Who are you going to be leading, right? Internally in your organization, externally, who are your clients, maybe you're consulting to them, what have you. And then finally, what skills do you need to be successful in that role? Right? What skills are necessary to really crush it in achieving and doing well in the role that you're targeting, right? So here's a solid example, and I hate text-heavy slides as much as you do, but I really, really like this, right? Because it's really, really clear, it's really to the point, and I use it as a really great example of a candidate that has a clear long-term vision for contribution. So here's what he says. He says, as a 14-year-old kid, I still remember the day I first watched my disabled mother sidelined by her recent stroke as she struggled to simply walk to the kitchen and get a glass of water. As she did, I turned my head to catch a commercial advertising a new wearable technology product that could measure an athlete's heart rate and help him or her to achieve fitness goals. And almost immediately, I remember being simultaneously impressed by the technology, but also wondering, why are we not applying similar technology to measure things that could warn someone that they're about to have a heart attack or a stroke, people like my mother? That moment gave me clarity on what I want to do. Learn all about this industry and how it's evolving, build my knowledge of wearable technology, and one day launch a company that could apply this innovative technology to serve high-risk patients, not just athletes. Right? See the specificity that comes through there. Here's the startup he wants to start. Here's what it's going to do. Right? Here's why it's really important to me. Here's where I'm ultimately headed, right? This is so motivational. This is going to make you so likable to be able to write something like this. Again, compare this with, I want to be a partner at McKinsey, period. Or I want to start a technology startup. Okay, I think I've hit this into the ground. I think you get it. But the percentage of candidates who know their vision contribution, believe it or not, is shockingly low. And the percentage who articulate it convincingly in their applications is even lower. When I talk about there being room at the top, this is an area where that's really, really apparent. This is an area where you can really differentiate yourself if you're able to articulate long-term career goals. And again, doing so matters. Here are two essays that two of the top schools asked this past year. Again, I talked about Stanford's essay. Tuck has a similar essay as well. We want wise leaders who want to better the world of business. As such, what are your short-term and career goals? And how is an MBA going to help you become a wise leader with global impact, right? They want people with heart and energy and enthusiasm. So that's your long-term goal. Step two, your short-term goal, AKA your short-term training ground, right? What I mean by that, again, is that this is the ideal role that is going to train you for that long-term success, right? That for that long-term vision, whatever role you want to have in the more distant future. So basically, scale back from the long-term goal. This is step two, maybe your second paragraph. What position within what type of company will help you prepare for this long-term vision for contribution? Right? Where are you going directly after business school? That is going to be the ideal training ground to set you up for success long term. As always, specificity is king. What type of company or organization? Maybe what are some sample companies that you've started to look into that are of interest to you? That's a great way of being specific, being able to say like, such as this group at this company or this group within this consulting firm, so on and so forth. What role are you going to pursue? Right? Look into some roles and some titles that you want to model after. Find a job description and model it after that. That's specific. And then third, again, what hard and soft skills will you build in that role, and how will those prepare you for long-term success? Hard skills being things like financial statement analysis, soft skills being things like communication skills, right? Hopefully that's clear. So again, generic content is poison to your application and specifically to this essay, right? We don't want a sentence that says something like, well, given my passion for strategy, how generic. I want to work as a strategy consultant, okay, where I'll help businesses learn how to grow efficiently, right? Can you think of a more generic answer to the question? I don't think so. Here's a more specific example. In order to succeed in my long-term goal as a tech entrepreneur in the healthcare industry, I'll need to learn all I can about how to set up a successful business, how the healthcare tech industry is maturing and changing, and what factors into the type of strategic decisions that players in this industry are making. As such, I want to join a healthcare technology consultancy, such as Accenture Digital Health, or in the medical technology consulting group at Bain, focusing specifically on consulting to smaller companies and recent startups, where I'll build not only these skills, but important connections in the industry, right? Specific, giving specific examples of groups that this candidate is looking into joining and why he wants to do it, right? The specific types of clients he wants to target. That's the big difference, and that's what you're aiming toward in your short-term goal. Third, show you've made some progress to date. This is step 3, right? So we have the long-term goal, here's where I'm heading. The short-term goal, here's what I want to do before that to prepare me. And step 3, I've already started to make some progress, right? I've taken some steps in pursuit of my post-MBA goals. And so you want to demonstrate that. Demonstrate your progress to date. The work that you've done to this point before going off to business school. How have you made progress toward your goals? Now, it's perfectly okay if you want to go to business school to change out of your current field. If you're looking to make a transition, even a substantial transition completely out of the role you're in into something completely different, that's a-okay, and that's very, very common. But you're still on the hook for showing how you've made progress toward your goals in some way, right? That is absolutely mandatory. You do not want to give the impression that everything you've done to date is just going to be thrown away. You've done nothing relevant. You've completely changed your mind. Everything you've done to this point is garbage and crap, and you want to basically start over in business school. That's not the message you want, right? Again, okay if you're transitioning. Okay if you have had a change of heart. If you had kind of a coming to God moment in the last couple of years where you got clear in where you want to go and it's really changed your career trajectory. A-okay. Many people go to business school looking to change paths, but you still need to market how your career to date has helped you build skills, expertise, knowledge that you'll be able to use both during and after business school, okay? So demonstrating your progress to date, how do you do that? There's kind of 5 different things that you can argue, right? First and foremost are hard skills, right? These are kind of core business skills, right? Skills that you've built and attained that you can teach others and that you can kind of bank on to drive your future success, right? So skills like financial statement analysis, marketing, specific types of strategy, expertise in a particular industry, things like that. Which is also kind of knowledge, right? So hard skills are the things that you know how to do. Knowledge are things that you know of, right? You have an understanding of how certain things are done, concepts, practices, tools, technologies, industries, things like that. Third way to show demonstration of progress is leadership potential. You've demonstrated that you have the ability to lead other people and do so competently. Right? Obviously, this is a big thing that many business schools ask for. They want future leaders, and if you want to prove that you're a future leader, how better to do that than to show the potential and the progress that you've made from your leadership capacity to this point. Fourth, your quantitative abilities. It's a great way to show progress, right? Proving that you can analyze and use numbers to draw conclusions, to influence decisions, so on and so forth. And then fifth, soft skills. innate abilities that make you easier to work with, right? Specific leadership, specific teamwork or communication, empathy, those types of skills. Of these 5, the top 3 are the most important. When you're really demonstrating your progress to date, hard skills, specific knowledge, and evidence of leadership are the most important. Quantability is easy to fudge. It's also very apparent based on your GMAT and your GPA. It's kind of a waste to spend your entire essay talking about your quantitative skills. And then soft skills are just really hard to prove, right? Anybody can write in an essay that they're a great team member and that they get along well with others. It's not really that powerful, right? So when you're articulating the progress you've made toward your goals, again, we're on step 3 here, prioritize these top 3, the hard skills to date, your knowledge, and demonstration of your leadership skills. One of the biggest mistakes that MBA applicants make is underestimating how far they've come. Okay, it goes right back to what I was talking about before. People over-exaggerate what's required of them or what's required of a top candidate to business school. They think they have to have started their own Fortune 500 company and they're on the path to be the next Steve Jobs, or they had to have a 4.0 from Princeton or something like that. Not at all. Right? Most candidates sink themselves because they don't think they bring enough to the table. And probably my favorite part of this job in working with candidates one-on-one is helping them realize just how far they have come and helping them understand exactly what they do bring to the table, right? And it's so much fun to kind of see people say, wow, really, I have kind of made some progress, right? I have done something in my career. I have grown in the last 3-4 years, however long since college. Don't make this mistake. Don't think that just because you're not the next Steve Jobs that you have nothing to offer a top-tier business school. I guarantee you that if you've worked in the field of any field in the last couple of years, you have something to contribute. Go into this process confident that you have something of value to provide and contribute to a top-tier program. Consistent with that idea, examples of showing leadership skill. So many candidates think, well, I haven't been managing teams. I don't have direct reports. I don't have 20 people working under me on these complex projects. How can I possibly show that I have leadership skill and potential? Remember that most candidates to business school aren't entering with a lot of formal leadership roles. Right? Most people are going to business school hoping to transition into leadership roles, maybe even a few years after business school transition into a leadership role. There are so many great ways to show leadership skill, even if you're not in a formal leadership role. And here's a few of many examples that could show your ability to influence and persuade other people, which is basically what leadership is, right? Identifying a problem and creating a vision to solve it, right? Setting a vision for a group for how you're going to solve a problem, organizing resources to address a problem, motivating others, setting a goal for a group, building consensus, understanding and leveraging individual people's talents, so on and so forth. There's a million different things that you can show about your ability to manage, lead, and interact with other people, even if you're not in a formal leadership role. So don't make the mistake of thinking you can't showcase your leadership skills because you're not in a formal management role. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Step 4, why you need an MBA to achieve your goals, right? So how do we do that? Well, here's why this comes last, first and foremost. One big reason is because you can connect the MBA to where you're already going, which you've already talked about, right? So you've already kind of set the stage for where you want to go, and now you can kind of argue for how an MBA is going to help you build on the skills and knowledge you already have and where you're going, right? So it kind of fits. Like you've already set the context. Here's where I'm going. Here's the progress I've made to date. And then again, it's positioning the MBA as a bridge. Here's how I'm going to bridge the gap between where I've been and where I'm going. Also, you can springboard into why you want to go into that particular school if they ask, right? Some schools will ask that as part of their essay, some don't. So this can become kind of a step 5 to this structure, which is why you want to go to this particular program. But it works really well, right? Here's where I'm going long term. Here's what I need to do after business school to get there. Here's the progress I've made to date toward these goals. Here's how an MBA is going to fill the gap. And here's why your program is the best one for me to help me fill the gap that I need to fill. Right? It just fits together so concretely. So if you do have that next part of the question, why do you want to go to this program as part of this same essay, it works really, really well to get into that immediately. So making your why I need an MBA case, again, you're trying to argue that an MBA is the ideal bridge between where you are and your short-term goal. right? An MBA is going to help you get to where you want to be better than just staying in your current role or even transitioning into another one, right? How is an MBA going to get you there faster, and how is it going to get you there more efficiently? That's the basic argument that you're trying to make, that an MBA is the best way for you to get where you're going, and there's no other real substitute or alternative. So you're trying to make an argument that an MBA is going to give you the skills and connections, knowledge that you need to attain and achieve at a high level in your post-MBA goals, right? Saying that again, you're trying to argue that an MBA will give you the skills and connections you need to attain your post-MBA goals and achieve in your post-MBA goals, right? It's the secret sauce that's going to help you get there. How do you do that? Well, academic knowledge is probably the most important one, right? This is the academic area you want to focus on, right? I'm going to go to business school and this is what I'm going to study. Here's why. It's going to give me the skills I need to succeed post-MBA, right? Get specific, the academic area you want to focus on. Obviously, this is the big value of a business school degree. It's a degree. This is school. You're studying something specific. You want to articulate how studying in business school is going to give you the knowledge and the skills that you need to succeed. Second, it's kind of the how-tos you learn as a student, right? How to structure a robust financial analysis using Microsoft Excel, for example, right? So you have your academic knowledge, like knowledge of digital marketing, and then it's your skills, like how to use Excel to really crush a particular type of problem. Soft skills. Again, a little less important. These do go in order of importance as you're arguing for why you need an MBA. Academics is certainly the most important. Skills follow soon after that. And then it's soft skills, right? Oh, I want to take some communication courses. I want to join the leadership organization or this type of club where I'm going to learn this particular type of soft skill, what have you, right? So negotiation skills is one that I list here. That's a really good example of a soft skill that an MBA can give you. And then fourth, but certainly not completely irrelevant, are connections, right? An MBA is going to open doors, right? You're going to have access to the alumni group and your professors and representatives of major companies, aka potential employers, not to mention the other students going to school with you, right? This is a mega benefit of going to business school, or the connections and the relationships that you build. Perfectly okay to articulate, but these are kind of the four buckets for making your why you need an MBA case. Academic knowledge, the skills or how-tos, the soft skills, and the connections you want to build. Sorry, I sprung back the slide there. So you may be asked, why do you want to go to business school now? If you are, or if you decide on your own to articulate why now is the perfect time to pursue your MBA, here are some important pointers. I find that this question is more common in an interview than it is in an essay, by the way, but some schools still include it in the essay. Why do you want to go to school now? So if you're asked that question, here's what you basically want to argue. First, I'm ready. You want to demonstrate that you're ready to attend and contribute to an MBA program, right? That your pre-MBA experience is relevant, is going to enable you to contribute, as we've talked about a lot today. Second, perfectly okay to say, hey, listen, I want to be aggressive. Arguing that obtaining an MBA will get you to where you want to be faster than staying in your current role or switching jobs, that's perfectly okay. Trying to make the argument that, hey, listen, I can continue to slowly climb up the corporate ladder and maybe 10 years from now I'll be able to get this short-term goal under my belt. Or I can go to business school, study for a year or two, and then get it. Right? I want to be aggressive. I want to crush it. I want to get out there and achieve that long-term vision that I'm so passionate about. And MBA is going to get me there faster. I love that. It is perfectly okay. And again, staying longer in my job isn't going to get me much further skill-wise, right? Kind of, I've gone as far as I can, and there's no kind of upside that's going to really help me, right? I can continue to grow. Maybe I can move to the next level of my organization, but it's not going to help me really make the progress I need, right? The current industry I'm in, the current role I'm in, the current company I'm in, it's just not going to get me there, especially if you're transitioning jobs. That's obvious, right? So a business school is going to get me there faster. It's going to give me the skills that I won't get otherwise, and I'm ready to do it now. I have a lot to bring to the table. This is why now is the perfect time for me to go to business school. Hopefully that's clear. So we've talked through this formula, right? Long-term, short-term, growth to date, why I need an MBA. Let me walk you through an example. Okay, and I will pretext this by telling you that this candidate who wrote this rough draft allowed me to share his example, right? So this is a rough draft of a candidate who wrote cleanly. You'll notice that there's not a lot of typos or grammatical errors. That's not the issue with this essay. But I want to walk you through what he did wrong and the opportunity to do it better, right? And the essay that I'm about to show you is very common to read in the MBA admissions office, right? For many candidates, this draft that I'm about to show you is basically a short essay final draft. Some schools ask this question to be answered in a very small number of words. This is a really good example of the type of responses that the admissions committee is more used to seeing than you'd even guess, okay? So here we are. What are your career goals and why do you need an MBA? So to be clear, as I go through this example, this candidate technically followed the structure. Long-term, short-term, progress, why MBA. He followed the 4 steps, but what I'm trying to push home here is that just following the structure isn't enough. Specificity and clarity is key. So if we start long-term, I want to start my own technology startup. I've had a passion for technology since I was a kid, and my parents tell me that I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So that's the long-term goal. What's wrong with this? Well, again, start my own technology startup. That's far too generic. That does what exactly? What kind of value will this startup generate? For who? What value will this startup bring to the world, to its target industry, so on and so forth? So again, I think I'm driving this home maybe too much, but I want this to be really clear. Specificity is king. You can't just say, I want to start a startup. Problem 2, staying in this first paragraph. I've had a passion for technology. My goodness, how much more broad can we get? Technology. What type of technology? What specifically about technology inspires you? Where did that passion come from? What's the difference you dream of making in technology, right? What are the details behind this? Don't just tell us that, well, I have a passion for technology. Okay, so to a million other people, right? Again, the goal here is to differentiate. What are the things that make you unique and special? The importance is in the details, right? Always when you're writing your essay and you're making your case, make sure that you're saying something that's unique and special, that other candidates aren't going to step up and say the same thing. Problem number 3, my parents tell me I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Who cares? Who cares? This is not a credible source. Your parents aren't exactly an impartial source, right? And I'd rather hear about how you've demonstrated an entrepreneurial spirit or an ability to succeed in an entrepreneurial-like environment. Like, give me some specifics, right? Telling a business school that your parents are confident in your entrepreneurial skills or that you have an entrepreneurial spirit is so irrelevant, it makes me want to cry. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing, even from the first paragraph here, how generic and broad this is. Technology startup, a passion for quote unquote technology, and then this fluff about how my parents have always told me that I have an entrepreneurial spirit. Nobody cares, okay? So this paragraph overall, the long-term goal, makes no mention of what it'll take to succeed in this role, and thereby really fails to set up the rest of the essay, right? When you're articulating your long-term goals, you need to be able to say, to succeed in this long-term role, here's what I need to be able to do well. That's really important. You need to start with that kind of skills-based message, because then you can talk about how you're going to build those skills, how you've already started to build those skills, how an MBA is going to help you attain those skills, so on and so forth. But you got to set the context here in this first paragraph of what it'll take to succeed in this long-term goal. Paragraph number 2. I'm showing a little more personality here. I don't know how many friends are watching, or fans of Friends rather, are watching this webinar. I'm a big Friends fan. I used to watch it all the time when it was on. I still watch the reruns with my sister now and then. So maybe you don't know, Chandler, the character from Friends, but he had this kind of really quippy characteristic where, could you be more generic? You know, that was kind of his tone. So he was kind of sarcastic, but I'm showing that here, right? So, en route to this goal in the short term, I want to work in strategy consulting. Could you be more generic? Where I can work directly with large firms. Could you be more generic? On developing winning strategies. Could you be more generic? And helping them win in the marketplace, right? Like, everything about this screams broad, screams generic, screams, I want more detail. I don't get it. I can't see the picture. I can't see the vision, right? Just so many questions. What type of consulting? For what type of firm? Which group within that firm? What does the group do? How do they help solve client problems? What types of clients? When in the marketplace? How? What does that even mean, right? Like it invites more questions than it actually answers. And then I'll be able to use these new skills in launching my own startup long term. So you can see how this candidate was just a little married to the structure, but left it too generic. I'll be able to use these new skills. He doesn't mention any skills, right? Where in this paragraph does it mention any actual skills? And since there are no real details about the long-term vision, it's impossible to connect how this generic consulting, quote unquote, career will help. Basically argues, well, I'll be learning strategy, and we can assume that these strategy skills, whatever they are, will be somehow helpful to me long term. Strategy is just too high level, and well, yawn, right? There's nothing inspiring about this essay. It's too broad, it's too generic, does nothing to move the reader, and as such, this is an immediate ding if you're sitting in the admissions office, right? While working in the admissions office, I would have stopped here. This is already the stroke of death. This candidate's already not going to get an interview, right? I can say that with full confidence. Again, I did get many essays similar to this one, and I literally couldn't get through them. My mind would go to, yeah, I think I'm ready to hear from a more serious candidate, and I would just skip to the next application in my stack. And yeah, that was true even if this candidate had a 790 GMAT or an 800 on the GMAT. Doesn't matter. This candidate would be dinged from a competitive business school every time. Never even awarded an interview. Doesn't matter about their quants or their stats or where they went to school and whether they were the CEO of Google or something like that. This essay is crap. And regardless of what they're bringing to the table in their professional profile, if you can't make a case for yourself in your story essay, it's just too competitive and you're never going to move forward in the process. But we will. Let's continue with the essay just for our own sake, right? Third, I've made progress toward these goals. Okay, throughout my career, I've demonstrated technology skills and shown great evidence of being a team leader. I think I've hit this home. Could you be more generic, right? Remember that soft skills make for weak arguments when you're trying to show progress, right? Remember we talked through that slide, kind of the three things you really want to focus on: the hard skills, knowledge, and leadership. Soft skills are just too easy to fudge, right? Anyone can say I'm a great team leader, I'm a people person. These statements aren't credible, they're not differentiating. Even if this candidate did want to argue for his collaborative skills, this is just too high level. There's no evidence here, there's no demonstration of real progress that he's made in his career, right? So hopefully you're seeing how this just completely falls apart and it's missing all the important stuff. Finally, but to achieve my goals, I need an MBA to learn strategy and entrepreneurship best practices, right? Generic, generic, generic. Nothing inspiring about this essay. So hopefully going through that little exercise is clear. You know, so while this essay technically followed the 4-point structure, it ignored all the best practices for creating a really compelling story. It was full of generics. There's nothing particularly unique or interesting about it. It fails to inspire and entertain the reader. And yeah, I said entertain. You want your reader to be entertained. These are people. They want to be moved by your essay. Always remember that. This is a human exercise. This is a sales exercise. You're inspiring. It fails to connect the long-term goal to the short-term goal, to progress made, to the need for an MBA. So the story in the argument just gets completely lost. So overall, it just gives the impression that the writer is kind of phoning it in and hasn't really thought through where he's going or how an MBA is going to help him get there. Okay, hopefully that's really clear. An effective story, or why do you need an MBA, or career goals essay, whatever you want to call it, is unique, is persuasive, is memorable, and it convinces the adcom to root for you. That's what you want. You want your reader, the admissions officer, to be so inspired by where you're heading and the effort and progress you've made and how articulate you are about why you want an MBA. Like, they just can't wait to accept you. They become your cheerleader within the admissions office. So when everybody's sitting around that round table, which really does happen, and they're trying to pick, candidate A over candidate B or C, you have a cheerleader in that room who remembers reading your essay, and they were moved and inspired by your story, both where you've been and where you're going. That's what you want, and that's what it takes to get in, right? You really want somebody in the admissions office who's like, this is a person that we need at our school, who's rooting for you, who likes you, who's excited and passionate about your candidacy. That's the goal. Right, so there's lots of best practice like this, right? So just to kind of transition here for a minute, I think we've kind of, hopefully this structure is really clear, right? We've talked through the 4 steps. We've talked through what a generic versus specific essay looks like. Hopefully this was really helpful. But there's a lot of best practices like this. There's a lot of parts to your MBA application outside of just your story essay that you got to really nail and you have to really get right. And having worked with hundreds of applicants to get into top 10 MBA programs over the last 8 years, on top of my more than 5 years working in admissions, I know a lot of these different best practices, right? I know what it takes to craft a winning application. I can literally look at a candidate's application and tell them in about 5 minutes whether or not they're going to get an interview. And I'm right about 98% of the time if I had to put a number on it, right? Because I've been in the admissions office. I know what a winning application looks like and what a losing application looks like. Hopefully you're a little more educated on what a losing one looks like too after reading that generic essay. That's why 94% of the candidates that my team and I have worked with have earned acceptance into at least one top 10 business school, right? There's a science to this. There's a strategy to this. You've got to be really thoughtful about this. You can't just wing it. You can't just read the essay and just kind of write your answer and submit it. Like there's a lot of thought and strategy that goes into getting this process right. And in fact, not only have 94% of our candidates get it in, but 70% of them have, or plus, why over 70% of them, that's a very low estimate. It's approaching actually 80%, ended up getting into business school or a top 10 business school with at least a partial scholarship, right? Again, I really believe that there's room at the top here. If you know how to do this right and you give it the energy and foresight that it requires and forethought that it requires, you'll be in much better shape. And again, specificity is king, and that's where so many candidates just get it wrong. But there's room at the top if you know how to get it right. So the structure that I shared with you today is absolutely proven. This is best practice. I've helped hundreds of candidates get into business school using this structure as a template, as a starting point for their essay. But again, every successful candidate is going to tweak their approach their own way and incorporates their own flair and, of course, their own personalities, their own stories, their voice into the application. But this approach, again, this structure in approaching this essay has literally worked hundreds of times. Okay, currently, again, 40 students currently sitting in HBS, Stanford, and Wharton, and MIT Sloan have worked with me directly using this exact approach and structure to this story essay. So there are tons of best practices and structures like this on the business school application, right? Convincing a program that it's your absolute top choice, right? Convincing it that they're your #1 school. Telling a school how you will uniquely contribute. This is a very popular question as well. Like, what are the opportunities for contribution that you've identified by interacting with our campus? Is a big question that Cornell has been asking for years, for example, as well as a number of other schools. Structuring your essay. I mean your resume, so that it really markets your achievements and your candidacy to date, and so that it's easier for you to walk through in an interview. There's a right way and a wrong way to structure your MBA resume, for sure. So many candidates get it wrong, and it's not that easy to fix. You just have to know how to do it right, and it really sets you up in your whole application up for success, because it's one of the first things that the admissions committee sees. So how do you structure your resume in a way that kind of sets you up for success to do the rest of the process, and it establishes that early rapport. telling a story or giving an example from your past. A very common question that comes up in interviews and increasingly in essays. There's a right way to do that, right? A right way of telling a story of an example. Like when a school asks you, tell me about a time where you did this, this, or this, or showed this particular skill, or motivated this group of team members to do whatever, right? It's so common for a school to ask for very specific examples, especially again in interviews. And there's a lot of best practice on how to do that. But again, candidates just don't know what those are. Coaching your recommenders, tons of best practice around that. This is not something you just got to wing. It's not just something you just say to your recommender, hey, here's the link to the online application. Let me know when it's done. Like, you want to coach them. You want to guide them so that they're on brand. They're reinforcing your message. Low-hanging fruit that is not that hard to do. But so many candidates just don't do it right. And then there are even best practices and winning structures for the more unique essays that some of the top schools ask, right? You know, the Harvards basically tell us more essay, where they basically say, hey, we've seen your resume, we've seen your transcript, we've seen your recommendations. Tell us the story behind the story. Tell us what else we need to know about you, right? It's a very unique essay, and it's the only essay that I know of that has an unlimited word limit amongst the top 10 schools anyway. There's a winning structure to that. We talked about Stanford's What Matters Most to You and Why essay. There's a lot of best practices around that. Sloan, over the last few years, have asked people to write a cover letter to the director of admissions. Booth has its Booth Moments essay, where they show you a bunch of pictures and basically ask which one resonates most with you and tell us why you want to go to Booth. Cornell has its Table of Contents essay, right? Write a table of contents for your autobiography. Each school has kind of their own flair, has their own essays that they ask atop the tell us why you need an MBA and what are your career goals essay, right? There's best practices to all of this stuff. You know, showing a program why they're your top choice, showing how you'll be able to contribute, resume, recommendations, telling examples in your interview, and then answering these more unique essays. There are tried and true and proven approaches to nailing every facet of your application, just like there is in answering the career goals essay like we walked through today. So let's take a step back. Okay, you've invested your time watching this webinar tonight. You know that getting into a top MBA program is extremely competitive, and you know that following proven strategies and approaches will more likely get you into a top program than will winging it, right? So if you're someone who's really determined to get into a top MBA program and meets the basic requirements for getting in, you have some work experience, you have a decent GMAT score or GRE score, maybe right now you're wondering how you can implement all these best practices and all these tactics and strategies, both the ones that I showed you today and the ones that I just kind of listed out in the previous slide, quickly and easily. So obviously everyone knows that hiring an expert is the best way to do something well that you've never done before. Just look at how many businesses out there are hiring consultants and how much money they spend on them, right? Paying for expertise is a best practice in just about any exercise or industry in the world. And nowadays, the majority of successful MBA candidates who get into a top program are using help to do it, right? They're using an MBA admissions consultant, but there are a lot of quote unquote consulting firms out there who, in my experience, don't provide the necessary value, or they resort to kind of some high level coaching, or who prioritize making money over candidate outcomes. Right, what I mean by that is there are a lot of consulting firms out there where the consultant will take on like 20 or 30 clients at a time, and none of the clients are getting really the due diligence and attention that they deserve, because the firm is just kind of prioritized getting a lot of people in the door and making a lot of money, as opposed to really getting people into school, which I think is a shame, to be honest. So if you're applying to a top tier school, you need to work with a consultant that you can trust. Right, it's really, really important that you pick a consulting firm that you can really, really trust. Okay, so obviously I'm transitioning into a little bit of a pitch here, and I want to tell you a little bit about what we do. So I'm not going to get all hyped up and try to get you all hyped up about what this is and how it can help you. I mean, you've listened to me, you've heard my story, so you know that what I'm saying here can help you. So what I want to do is I just want to go over exactly what we offer prospective MBA candidates and how we can help you. If what we offer is right for you, then I want you to get it. If it's not right for you, I don't want you to get it. I'm going to do this without a lot of fanfare and pizzazz. I'm going to do this without hype. But here's how we help MBA applicants. I want to walk you through some of the services that we provide. So here's what you get if you sign up to work with our team on your MBA admissions app or your MBA application. For a little context, I have a small team of 10 MBA admission experts who work directly with MBA candidates applying to the top MBA programs, the top 20 schools, more or less. Each of them attended and worked in MBA admissions at a top tier program. So right now on our team, we have somebody from Wharton, 2 from Stanford, 2 from MIT, 2 from Booth, 1 from Kellogg, 1 from Tuck at Dartmouth, and then myself who went to Cornell. That's our team of consultants. We're not going to grow much bigger than that. And every consultant on the team takes only 2 to 3 candidates at once, which means that if you hire us and work with a consultant directly on your applications, you know that the consultant is focused primarily on you. You're not working with somebody who's working with 30 other people. Like, again, you might get at some of those larger consulting factories, as I call them. We stay small and we purposely keep it small. Over the past 3 years, 94% of our candidates earned acceptance to a top 10 program. And again, over 70% went to a top 10 program with a scholarship, because what we do is more in depth and we give more focus and attention to each one of our candidates, right? We only take on a couple and we're very selective. So we're currently accepting applications for our MBA admissions consulting services if you're applying to business school this upcoming year. As I mentioned, my team of consultants and I take on a very small number of candidates every year. We're not taking on hundreds of people. If you work with us, you have a consultant who works with you one-on-one and will literally walk you through the entire admissions process step by step. We have 9 people on the team right now. We're taking on 22 clients this year, right? So you can see how that's an average of 2 to 3 per consultant, right? That's it. That's all we're taking. Why? Our goal this year is to get 100% success. We had 94% success last year, which was great. This year, we want every person who works with us to get into a top 10 MBA program. And we're really, really committed to being the first in the industry to be able to say that and to be able to accomplish that. So that's what we're trying to do, get 100% of our candidates into business school. However, I want to make it clear, we take on the tough cases. Right? If something in your profile makes you think twice about applying to your dream school, like a low GPA, a low GMAT or GPA or GRE, atypical work experience, know that you're not alone. That's true for a lot of candidates, and your application, again, is not dead on arrival. My team has worked with numerous candidates who come from non-traditional backgrounds, who have some weaknesses or red flags in their profile. We know how to work around those things, and we know how to help you paint yourself and your candidacy in the best light possible, so that you can spend your energy on submitting the best application possible rather than focusing on issues that really aren't even deal breakers, right? So just to be clear, we're very selective in who we take on. We take on a very small number of candidates every year, only candidates that we are convinced will be successful in this process with our help and get into a top tier program. But that doesn't mean that we take on just perfect candidates. We're just looking for people who we think are really determined and who are going to work hard with us, because again, we have a reputation for being the most successful in the industry in terms of our percentage rate. I don't think anybody can match it, but we're also going to work you a little bit harder, right? That's what really differentiated me when I was working at these larger firms, is that we're more strategic and we'd bring you through a lot more due diligence up front in getting your strategy and your branding and your story really clear. So our services are specifically designed for MBA candidates targeting top schools. Okay, so if you're applying to schools in the 40 to 50 range, God bless you. I think there's a lot of value in those programs. I give you I wish you all the luck in the world, but you are not who we're looking for. But we're looking for people who are trying to go into the top 15, maybe top 20 schools. It's okay if you're throwing in a non-top 20 schools, kind of a safety, but we're looking for people who are kind of aiming high. That's where our expertise lies. That's where our experience comes from. Again, everybody on the team worked for a top 10 program, and my consulting team, that is. So we're looking for people who are trying to get into the top schools because that's where we're knowledgeable. I have connections in most, if not all, of the top 15 programs. I've been to each school many times. I live and breathe this stuff, and that's where my expertise and my team's expertise lies, in those top tier schools. Will help you create a unique personal brand to really differentiate yourself from other really highly qualified applicants, right? Get really clear on how you're different, how you're differentiated. That's what makes us different. We're really diligent about doing that upfront strategy development before we even lift a pen to create your application. But we'll also help you craft your winning story, just like the one we just walked through, so that your story inspires the admissions committee and makes you a candidate they will literally root for and respect. And again, believe me when I tell you that this is possible for you, right? You might be reading this and saying, well, I don't have a really strong candidacy. I don't have enough that's really going to inspire. Trust me, you do. I know it's hard to think that you do for many people before you kind of realize it. Believe me, we will uncover your motivational story, your inspiring story. You have it, you just got to uncover it, and we'll help you do that. I'll help you crush literally every aspect of the application, so that you're taking maximum advantage of every opportunity the admissions committee is giving you to showcase your candidacy, right? Your recommendations, your resume, your essays, the application form, the interview, everything in between. We will make sure that every element of your application is of A+++ quality, so that you're falling into that top tier of applicants. It's designed to dramatically increase your chance of success, right? We know what we're doing. We know the best practices. We all have experience in the admissions office. And our goal is also to maximize your chance of earning scholarships, right? We know that business school is expensive. What a lot of people don't want to do, if everybody doesn't want to do, is go into their post-MBA careers and just be slogging under mountains and mountains of debt, right? So we know that we know the importance of scholarships, and we'll help you get scholarships to the best of our ability as well. And again, usually we're successful doing so. This is a very high-touch premium service. You're going to work closely with us throughout the entire application process for several months, right? You have a consultant that's assigned to you one-on-one who's going to walk you through the entire process step by step. So if you're interested, here's how we do that. Here's our kind of holistic approach to consulting. We start by getting clear on your strategy, developing your personal brand, if you will. What is our strategy for differentiating you from other applicants? And again, by the way, this is what sets us apart. I've worked for other firms before where they have a kickoff call that's just kind of oh, let's discuss your strengths and weaknesses. We go much farther than that. We really want to be strategic and treat this almost like a marketing exercise in identifying how can you differentiate yourself and your candidacy from other really highly qualified applicants. That's where we start. We'll also coach you through school selection. We'll create an application timeline for you so you know what you'll be working on each week leading up to the application deadlines. Unlimited edits on your resume and essays. As you can imagine, the bulk of the time is spent doing your essays. It's a lot of work. A typical school asks between 2 and 5 essays, up to 750 words each, right? So a lot of work and editing that goes into those. Recommender selection and coaching, unlimited review of recommendations if your recommender is willing to let us do that, of course. Assistance with the application form, which also typically includes some short essay questions. Interview prep and mock interviews, as many as you need to make sure that you're fully prepared for your interview. And then again, negotiating, identifying, and pursuing scholarships once you have your admissions offers is a big part of what we do. So in the first week, if you hire us and decide to work with us and we decide that you're a good fit for the program, your consultant will walk you through our proven approach to get you really clear on your personal brand and your strategy for how you're going to differentiate. You'll be doing this using a simple but really effective personal branding strategy that we've really built up and fine-tuned over the last few years that I believe is far more in-depth than what other firms offer. We'll also work with you to clarify your story, again, your career goals, progress to date, everything we talked about in today's workshop. And we'll get clear on school selection, recommender choice, developing your plan or your schedule, and reviewing best practices for the essays you'll have to answer based on the schools that you're applying to. That's kind of the first week or two of working with us. And then we implement, right? Drafts of your resume, essays, application form until everything is A+ quality. You work with your individual consultant, but other consultants on the team are also standing by to lend a hand, right? So if you're applying to a school that one of our consultants worked at, that consultant will be present throughout the process and will provide feedback on your application, right? So maybe you're working with a consultant that went to MIT because you're applying to MIT, but you're also applying to Stanford. We have a Stanford consultant who worked in the admissions office at Stanford. She will take a look at your application as well before you submit it and provide feedback so that you're leveraging the skills and the background of the consultants that we have on our team. The goal is to help you prepare a stellar application, but that's just one component of ensuring your success. Scholarships and fellowships are important, right? Since we started working together as a team since 2012, we helped our clients gain almost $6 million in free money for their business school degrees. We want to make sure that upon earning admission to your dream school, that your career prospects aren't limited again by financial constraints. We will help you in the scholarship identification and negotiation process. So here's how you start the process. If you're interested in working with my team and being one of the 22 candidates that work with us this year, below this video now is a link that you can click to set up a 20-minute meeting with me directly. It's a direct link to my calendar. This is the URL showing on your screen now if that's easier for you for some reason. I'll ask you some questions about you, so I get to know your background and your candidacy a little bit, and also answer any questions you have about our program and how we help people. Only serious candidates need apply. We are picky. We only take on about 20% of applicants who want to hire us because we are at very high demand every year, because we have the success rate and the track record that we do, and because we only have consultants from top tier programs. So again, what does a serious candidate mean? You're targeting a top tier program. You can demonstrate a willingness to do what it takes to earn admission and can speak to why you're committed to this process. We want people who are going to work hard because we are going to work you hard. We work you harder than any other firm out there. I can guarantee that. But that's why we have the track record that we do. It's tougher to work with us, but we have the track record that we do because we work you as hard as we do. And third, frankly, if you're a serious candidate, you can afford us. We charge basically what other firms charge, which is new this year. We're actually charging much more last year, but we're trying to scale and bring in some candidates this year who maybe don't have a ton of money. So we have scaled down our prices this year. Who knows what we'll do next year? But it's still expensive. Right, the most popular package is a 3-school package. You basically work with a consultant all in for 3 schools, and that package is just over $7,000. Our cheapest package, our 1-school package, is just shy of $5,000. So we do have payment plans available, and we're happy to be flexible with you if we decide to work with you and you with us. But this still requires some upfront capital. Our hope for every candidate is that the amount of money you get in scholarship money is at least 5x what you have to pay us for consulting, right? That's how we kind of measure the ROI, not only the number of schools you get into, but the amount of scholarship money that you're awarded. And maybe you're thinking you have no chance of getting a scholarship to a top 10 school. You're wrong. I bet you do. You know, if you meet the basic criteria, and again, if you have a 570 GMAT and a 2.1 GPA, you're right, you don't. But as long as your stats are somewhat in range and you have somewhere near the amount of work experience that these schools want, trust me, there's more opportunity here than you might think. So why us? I think I've talked to this already. We have a small team of former MBA admission officers from only top 10 programs. We all come from top 10 programs except myself. Cornell is technically not a top 10. It's usually a top 12 to 15. But every other school on our list falls into a top 10 program. Or the consultants worked at a top 10 program, I should say. Again, each of our consultants assign no more than 4 applicants at a time, usually, and this year, 2 to 3. Ensuring that they're completely available to give their candidates maximum support. We've talked about our success rate, 94% success rate, more than 2/3 earning scholarship offers, and I talked about the programs already that our consultants come from and worked in admissions at. So we embrace our team's expertise. We work together to ensure that you're putting your best foot forward. So again, while you have one consultant working with you directly, we do work as a team in the background to make sure that everything is improved, so, or approved rather. So last season, all of our coaching clients or consulting clients were given the green light. We had 34 candidates last year. We took on more than we are this year. 33 out of the 34 were admitted to one of their top choice schools. Over the last 6 years, our clients have earned 238 acceptance letters to top 10 programs and 108 acceptance letters to HBS, GSB, and Wharton specifically. And I talked about already the scholarship money that they get or that they've received. One thing that we're adding this year, which I'm really excited about, is what I'm calling the MBA Inner Circle. and this is basically live access to our team. On a weekly basis. So we're basically going to have live calls for any of our consulting clients to dial into up to 3 times a week, with different hours kind of spread around the week at times that are convenient for people in different time zones. You can dial into these calls whenever you want, and you'll have access to not only the consultant you're working with, but the other consultants on our team. So if you're working on a booth application, you want to ask the booth consultant about your essay or your strategy specifically, you'll have the opportunity to do that, for example. Again, we've talked about the experience that the team has. We'll hold 3 live calls a week at various times, as I talked about, and all calls are open forum for you to ask any questions, even anonymously if you want, whenever you decide to show up to any of these 3 calls. They're basically there when you want them, and you can continue to join these calls however long into the future you want. So there's no expiration date on your access to the MBA Inner Circle, so you can continue to dial into these as often as you want. Again, you're going to have a consultant at your beck and call who's going to be working with you directly and available to hop on the phone with you and responsive via email at any hour of any day or within reason. But the MBA Inner Circle is basically your chance to work with the other consultants on our team as you need to ask their advice and their guidance, and maybe you're fine-tuning the why Stanford part of the Stanford 2 essay and you want to talk to the Stanford consultant who just doesn't happen to be your direct consultant. That's what these calls are for. So I'm really excited about that part. I'm excited to see how it's going to work. The team is really excited about that too. So here's a slide you've already seen before. Click the link below if you're really serious about this. You're shooting high, you're shooting top 10. And again, if you can feasibly afford the services that we have. Typically, we do sell out quickly around this time of year. I really do believe, as I talked about, that it's best to get started on this stuff early. You know, a lot of candidates say, well, I'll start working on my application after I finish the GMAT. I don't think that's smart, right? You want to get clear on your story and your strategy now, even if you're still studying for the GMAT. Get this stuff under your belt. Start thinking through this time. Again, this is the time to really get clear on where you're going. It's not when you're in business school. You're not going to have that time again to kind of float around and do this soul searching. The time to do your soul searching and get clear about where you're going starts now. You can fine tune that in business school, but the more clear you can get now, the better you'll do in this process, and the better equipped you're going to be when you walk in the doors of the business school. Most candidates regret waiting too long to begin this process. Don't be one of them. Again, we have a reputation of being the team of consultants that works our candidates harder than others. We're okay with that. We have a lot of testimonials that say stuff like that, like, wow, my roommate hired, some other consulting firm and we worked with Ryan and his team. Man, like, we had a lot more phone calls up front, and we were on the phone much later into the night, and we exchanged far more drafts. Like, it's true. We're going to work you harder, but our track record speaks for itself. We're very confident in our approach, and if you're really serious about this, I'm sure that we can help you be successful. Here's kind of a case study from a prior client. Right. In fact, somebody who worked with another consulting firm, which is why I really like this case study. So, candidate named Christina. You can see her stats to the left of your screen. 750 on the GMAT, 3.7 from an Ivy League school, 3.5 years of work experience at JP Morgan, active in her community as a big sister for the Big Sisters organization, and was president of her local alumni chapter. Right. Really solid candidacy. And you can see the results. She applied round 1, working with another consulting firm, as it turned out. She was dinged to all the schools she applied to: HBS, Sloan, Stern, Kellogg, and Darden. All dinged her she did get an interview to Kellogg, as you see there, but as you might know, you can sign up for an interview to Kellogg. You don't have to qualify for it. So she was dinged to all of her schools in round 1. She found me soon after getting all her rejection letters, and she's like, Ryan, can you just kind of review my applications and tell me what happened, right? So I did, and frankly, her essays were beautifully written, that they were free from grammatical errors, perfectly written English. Her resume looked really sharp. Her recommendations were very positive, even glowing. And again, she had no obvious weaknesses in her profile. Great GMAT, great GPA, solid undergraduate school. She checked boxes you don't even have to check. But her application simply didn't do enough to differentiate her. Right? I talked about before, when you see an essay like the one we walked through, it doesn't matter if you have an 800 on the GMAT and a 4.0 from Princeton. Right? If you don't make a really compelling case for yourself, you're going to be sunk. And Christina's results are true testament to that. But once she and I started to work together, and I got her clear on her differentiation strategy, how she was going to distinguish herself, and once we implemented these best practices, everything changed. She was accepted to 3 top 10 schools and ultimately enrolled with a scholarship at Tuck. Right? I believe in what we do. I believe in our approach. I love working in MBA admission consulting. This is my passion, and it's my life work. The best days of my life are getting those phone calls from candidates when they got into the school that they never thought they would. Right? I went with a candidate this past year who literally had to save up his life savings to work with me. Right? He was coming from the country of Georgia, and I had never met anybody from the country of Georgia before. He was my first from that area. And he's literally was scrapping dollars together to be able to work with me, but he went all in, and he was convinced he wasn't going to get into a top 10 school, and he really lacked confidence. And I'll never forget, the day he called me and told me he got into, his choice top 10 school. Right, and that he had gotten $20,000 a year to go there. I could hear him crying over the phone, and now he's one of my best friends. I was actually in Ithaca a few weeks ago and got to visit with him directly, and he went out for a few beers, and it's awesome. Like, I love this work. I really feel like I'm changing lives, and I'm helping people achieve what is a really serious goal. Right, getting into a top tier business school is going to change your life. It changed mine. It changed the lives of everybody they went to school with. I really believe in the power of a top tier MBA degree. And so it's so rewarding to be able to work with candidates in achieving this really important goal of getting into a top tier school. This is my passion, and it's why I do what I do and why my team does what we do. We're very excited about working with high potential candidates and helping them achieve, maybe the biggest goal of their life to date. Right. So another kind of disclaimer, we're very direct. Okay, the way that I kind of frame up this to candidates when I'm working with them directly is when we work with you, we're going to have a very no BS approach. If I'm reading an essay and something is terrible, I'm not going to give it the compliment sandwich, as it's called. Hey, this was a really great try, and I'm really proud of you for putting this much time in. You might want to tweak it this way to make it a little bit better, but again, I think you're the greatest person to ever step foot on the face of the earth, right? It's not the approach we take. Something's wrong, we say, this is wrong, here's why it's wrong, here's how you fix it, looking forward to the next draft, that's it. Right, and that's not for everybody. Not everybody manages well under that no BS approach. Not everybody manages well when their essay is basically ripped to shreds and has a comment on every line and things like that, right? So just know that going in. If you're interested in working with us, we're very direct in our feedback. We try to be as efficient as we can. We don't want to waste your time or ours. So we want candidates who, again, are very focused on this, are very driven, and just want the best advice and to get it done as efficiently as possible. But again, our success rate is unparalleled. I really believe in the work that we do, and I really believe in our capability to help you if you're a serious candidate. So again, click on the link below. Here again is the URL. Going to that page will give you a direct link to my calendar, and we'll chat. And think about it almost kind of like a mini interview if you want, but it's very informal. I'm just going to ask you some questions to kind of understand your path to date, understand where you are in the admissions process, what you're thinking, the schools you're targeting, things like that. Answer any questions that you might have about me and my team, and we'll basically test one another to see if there's a mutual fit here. So Hope to talk to you soon if you fall into that camp and if you're interested. And if you're not, I certainly still hope that today's webinar was helpful to you. Hopefully that the structure that I shared and the best practices I shared will be transferable for you to do this on your own. That's certainly the hope in creating this presentation, is to help not just those who are signing up for consulting and giving us their money, but also the people who dialed in just to learn something. And so I genuinely hope that today's session was valuable for you. And if you are interested in moving forward in the process and interviewing to be a client of ours, I very much look forward to talking to you very soon. So thank you very much. Thanks again for your time today. Hope it was worthwhile. Reach out anytime, and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you again.